Hello everyone, welcome again to the Songbird Sade Knits podcast. My name is Mercedes and I'm coming to you from Guelph, Ontario, also the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. It is early April. We in Ontario here are having not very April-like weather. It's April-like in the sense that it's unpredictable, but it's not very spring-like. It's very wintry still. I have seen some spring flowers coming up in other people's gardens, particularly ones that face south, but nothing in my garden yet, but soon, I know. Yes, I just want to say welcome to everyone. Welcome to all the new viewers. Welcome to the return viewers, and thank you for joining me. This is a podcast mostly about knitting, but also about other crafts from time to time, particularly woolly fiber-based crafts. I would say that today it's mostly about knitting. It has been a while since I've created a video, and that's mostly because I felt I didn't have too much to share, but I've accumulated things, of course, as knitters do. Yeah, I would love to share with you before too much more time passes and I've forgotten what I've knit and haven't been able to share. So that's what I will do today. Yeah, I guess since the last episode, this is new. This is our wood burning stove. I'll try to show you a little bit of it. Let me try a little better view here. There's a little cat bed that my partner and I made. He made the wooden frame and then I wove cotton clothesline into a woven seat, and then I made a little wool pillow for the cats. They do like it. It's not their favorite spot, but it's there as an option. They also like to change spots all the time, so it's nice and close to the fire, which they do appreciate. So this has been, I can already tell I'm actually going to get a little too warm sitting next to it right now. But yeah, it's been an amazing addition to our home. We're so lucky and so happy to be able to have it, and to be able to benefit from the comfort that it provides, and the sort of animation that it brings to the room. It is a really lovely addition, and we feel very lucky to be able to have that. So I just wanted to show you that. I'll probably sit in front of it a little more often, as long as it's not too hot. So yeah, that's what's new. This sweater is also new. I did post some photos on Instagram, so hopefully you can go there and see a little better image. I can also insert one here too, if you're not on Instagram, that's fine. So this is my most recent finished project, and I am super pleased with this. It's the Bonnie Cardigan by Tete Beche, also Orlan Souche on Ravelry, and she refers to it as sort of a bomber style cardigan, and the pattern, I would say, is written like that. However, I would say the image on the cover image for the pattern, to me, does not look like a bomber style cardigan. It's quite a bit oversized. I would highly recommend this pattern. It's easy, so easy to follow, very well written, and I just love the shape of it. It yields a beautiful product, but just be aware, if you are drawn to the pattern because of the photo in particular, you will want to make sure that you pick a size with the amount of ease that you're looking for, and also be aware that in the pattern it says to knit the body from the armhole down about 11 inches or to your desired length. It does say that in the pattern, but 11 inches is typically a cropped size, which is not represented in the photo. So just be aware of that if you're maybe a new knitter and you know, just trying to figure out how long to make the body and you're just trusting the pattern. If you want it to look like the photo, I recommend getting a sweater that you already have, that you like the length of, and just calculating that length and knitting your Bonnie cardigan to that length so that it'll be oversized, which is sort of what I did. I certainly knit it longer than 11 inches, and I actually think besides that, there are no changes that I made to this pattern. I loved this pattern, and I don't often think that I'll knit a pattern again because I already have it. I don't really see the need to knit that exact pattern again, but this is such an attractive shape, and also just a very easy sweater to wear, that I will certainly make it again in a totally different yarn, and maybe more of a cropped version, but maybe more of an oversized version. I'm not really sure. Mine's kind of in between, so whatever I do for the second one will be different than this. So I'll just insert a photo here so that you can see what it looks like. So the yarn that I used is Aelphos Lettlopi, and the colorway that I used is called Galaxy. In the photos, hopefully you can see why it's called Galaxy. It's a rich dark, blacky, bluey, purpley green color with lots of flecks of other colors in there. Particularly what stands out are flecks of purple, and there's even like a golden color that stands out. So, you know, from a distance or overall, and perhaps right now it looks black, but it is not black. You can actually wear it on top of black, and it doesn't really clash. You know, sometimes you can pair different blacks together and they clash. This, when paired with black, actually appears, depending on, I guess, the way the sun hits it, it appears green or blue or purple. So I'm finding it very versatile. I did not like the color at first. I got the color actually because the original color that I wanted, which I think is called murky, sort of a dark brownish green, as you can imagine, kind of mud-like. They were sold out of that, so I got this instead, and I kind of regretted the choice, and I'm so happy that by accident I got this yarn, because it in fact goes with my wardrobe. So sometimes I think I'm a really earth-toned kind of person, and you know, I'll knit things in earth tones, and then I knit something like this that's very black and then has lots of really saturated colors flecked in it, and it goes with everything that I own. So maybe I don't know myself as well as I think I do, or maybe I just have lots of different interests that sometimes aren't compatible. But speaking of earth tones, I paired this Galaxy sweater with very earthy buttons. These are handmade wooden buttons from a shop on Etsy called Go Green Workshop, and I've purchased buttons from this shop before. I've also purchased, I believe it was from the shop, null binding needles, which are I haven't done null binding yet, so maybe if you're not familiar with what it is, look it up online because you'll get a better description than what I can provide. But basically it looks like a tapestry needle, but it's made of wood, and it's kind of flat with a larger eye, and it's kind of, the technique is somewhat like knitting, but instead you're sewing your garment, and the garment comes to be through sewing. So yeah, I bought null binding needles from this shop as well to try that craft. But these are a special button. Um, he does buttons made that are sort of a little more regular, regularly shaped and regularly available, made of, maple, walnut, and, more common woods for this area. And then he does specialty buttons made of trees that I presume have been pruned or felled in people's gardens. So maybe exotic trees. I think this is from some sort of Japanese cherry tree. And so they're one-off buttons. No more will be made once he's used up his source of wood for these buttons. And I love them on this sweater. It picks up the orange and it provides a sort of natural element to the sweater, which otherwise has color tones that could be more, that are just not natural tones. So I'll try to show you here too, if you want to see. I'm sorry, I know it's a bit cloudy. But yeah, you can just see just the beautiful inner bark of the wood on these buttons, and then some of the dark heartwood. They're gorgeous. So I'm very happy with this cardigan, very, very happy. And I knit it in good time too, so I still have had lots of wear from it, especially with the weather being not that warm yet. So, but I am getting warm, so I'm just going to undo my sweater. I'm also wearing what I call my backcountry hat. There's no pattern written for this, it's just a pattern that I've made up, but it includes these really awesome evergreen cables. And the cable pattern itself is one that you can find a recipe for on the Mimi Cod website. I've spoken about this in a previous episode. So I found that cable pattern and just, did two sort of versions of it on this hat and just knit a very generic hat recipe with, I think I divided the crown into 4 and decreased that way. I've never actually used a hat pattern now that I think of it. All my toques that I've made, I kind of just made them up and figured out the decrease once I got to the point at which I needed to start decreasing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Usually I try to cast on with increments of 4 so that if I don't want to be too fancy in my decreasing for the crown, I'll just divide the hat into quadrants and then do decreases evenly. And yeah, for the most part, it's worked well for me. Sometimes I end up with a hat that's a little tight or too loose, but actually rarely does that happen. So yeah. And then this is in Topsy Yarns, or Topsy Farm Yarns. They are located in on Amherst Island, I think, near Kingston, Ontario. And they farm sheep and then have their yarn spun elsewhere, dyed and spun elsewhere. And yeah, they make really, really durable yarns. And I have used their yarn for quite a few projects. Something else that I finished recently, I find when I've knit lopapezas, like Elephas Lopi lopapezas, so the bulky weight yarn, often those patterns, and I feel, I kind of suspect that they write extra yarn into the pattern for the yarn requirements, just so that you'll buy it. And I mean, I don't mind because I always find a use for those extra skeins. But it's funny, every sweater I've knit from this one particular book, the size turns out pretty much how I expect, and yet I always have leftover yarn, and sometimes it's multiple skeins. So that seems to me like quite the miscalculation, or it's just a way of getting you to purchase more. In any case, with one of my leftover skeins of Lettlopi from the sweater that I made for my partner, which I call the Wolf Moon sweater on my Ravelry, it's not my pattern. I like to name all my knits that I make, and it's I made it under the wolf moon, and it's sort of a wintry color. I made a little basket stitch mug cozy. I have not been drinking coffee with my partner for a while now, and I'm mostly off caffeine, but I still have decaf coffee, like 1 cup a day, or I'll have a tea once a day, and that's it. So I need somehow to keep my 1 mug warm, because my partner's using the cozy for the coffee bottom. So I just used a skein and made this, basically this basket knit stitch cylinder. And very clever of me. I guess I recently finished this. I make up things as I go along, sometimes with things like this, you know, accessories or household items. And so I don't always remember what I did, but I guess I did buttonholes where you bind off. I did, and then, you know, recast on the next row. So I did buttonholes so that I could thread this I-cord rope through it. So yeah, and then yeah, I just made with, again, leftover yarn. I made I think this is a 4-stitch I-cord, and that's how I cinch the top of it. And I have my mug here of hot water. I can show you. This is a rather large mug, and this is rather large. So it fits over my largest mugs, and I thought I'd make smaller ones for smaller mugs, but you know, kind of with these, bigger is better to an extent because it's easier to get on. And if you have one of those, you know, cup steeper baskets in here, you don't want something jostling that when it goes on top, because it can spill your tea or your coffee into your mug, which I found out by being a little bit rough when I put this on. So I don't think I need anything smaller. It fits perfectly over all the mugs that I use, even the largest, and then on the smallest it's fine. So that's, you know, a quick little thing that I made, and I love making household items out of leftover yarn. It's something that I find very pleasurable. It gives me the chance to be a little bit creative, and also a little bit forgiving of myself, I guess. Not that I'm hard on myself with my knitting, but you know, you can be creative, but also you don't have to make some masterpiece. You can just have a little bit of fun and make something, and it's something that you're going to use as much as you want to use it. And in this case, I use that cozy every day. So I love using leftover yarn for little projects like that, or, you know, hats or fingerless gloves, those kinds of things. I found myself now in a point where I have a lot of works in progress on the go. Once I had finished this, I was very faithful to just knitting this, and then I wanted to do the same thing afterwards, and you know, it just didn't happen. Sometimes that happens. You just get this knitting energy and you want to start a bunch of things. So I will show you what I've started. I started the, let's see if I can show this to you. This is a hard one to show, but it has a split hem on the sides. So it's split there, split there, and then it has a lovely bottom, a welt, I think this is called. Oh dear. This is alpaca yarn, alpaca and bamboo, so it's very slippery, and I've dropped some stitches. I'd like to catch them before they run away on me, so just bear with me while I do that. Okay, that's good enough for now. Yeah, so on the back, the welt is a little longer, like a thicker ribbing welt. It's 1x1 rib. And then on the front, it's a little shorter. So that's a really nice style. This is the Weekender Light by Andrea Mowry. And I've had this on my list of things to knit for a while. I've had this yarn for a while. And I'm happy to be knitting on it finally. This yarn is so beautiful. It's an alpaca bamboo mix. I think there might be something else in it. Let me check that. It's a 2-ply fingering. It's 65% alpaca, 25% merino, and 10% bamboo. And it's made by Twin Pines Alpaca Farms in Ontario, in Millbrook, Ontario. And hopefully you can see it's kind of a mixture of dark brown, like a chocolatey, a warm dark brown, but not too warm. Almost like a bark color, and then a sort of white chocolate color. White chocolate, it's not very white, it's really like creamy colored. That's the other color that's in here. So yeah, that's that. It's a joy to knit with this. It's so soft. I think it will be a heavy sweater because alpaca is heavy, and so is bamboo actually. But so I think it will be quite warm. It will not be light in the sense that you can wear it that I'll be able to wear it in the summer. I don't think that that'll be the case unless it's a cold evening, but it will still be a nice light pullover sweater, not bulky in the least. So, and I don't really have anything alpaca except for a scarf. And I absolutely adore alpaca fiber. So I'm really excited about this to wear it, but I'm also just enjoying the process of knitting it. It's kind of a boring knit, to be honest. I'm noticing I like texture much more. I really like mixing purl and knit stitches. I find it easier on my hands. This is mostly knit, but that's okay. I'm still enjoying it because this yarn is so beautiful on the fingers. And this is a really popular pattern, but maybe I will still try to insert a picture of the pattern cover photo. Just if you're not familiar with it, then you don't have to go looking for it. You can see that photo and see for yourself what it looks like without having to navigate somewhere else. I'll try to remember to do that if I can, as much as I can, because I noticed some podcasters have done that in the past, and many have stopped doing that because it is a lot of work in the editing. But when I can do it, I will try, because I enjoy at least when other people do that. So as you can see in the photo, the sweater is actually not worn with the knit side out, even though you knit it that way. It's actually worn the opposite way, inside out, with the purl side showing, so that you can see this false seam detail that will run on the front, right down the middle, and on the back, right down the middle. So it just gives, it's still an easy knit, but it gives that extra, just that extra detail to something that's otherwise very simple. And then the shoulder construction of this is really nice. I think it has saddle shoulders, and then a boat neck as well. So I know some people don't like boat necks. They can be challenging to wear over top of a t-shirt. It can kind of look sloppy. So like a strappy shirt looks best under a boat neck. But I really like boat necks. I find them really flattering on my shoulders. So, and I don't own many boat neck sweaters, that's for sure. So yeah, I think this will be a nice addition to my wardrobe and a staple piece once it is knit. Okay, what is next that I can show you? Well, the next thing I'll show you, this is a sweater that I'm working on for my partner. And I don't usually give myself deadlines for knitting unless it's for Christmas. And even then, I think especially going forward, I'm going to try to not do that. I'm going to try to, as much as is possible, knit in advance of, you know, the Christmas season, or maybe be less specific about what I'm making for Christmas so that I can still have gifts to give to people, but without feeling so attached to a particular item for a particular person. I don't know if that will really work. Maybe in the case of knitting socks or something it would, but I don't know, we'll see. I don't enjoy knitting on a deadline, and I like to be able to set something down and switch projects if I'm noticing that I'm not enjoying it anymore, because I know I will enjoy it. Eventually, I just, you know, sometimes need to change it up. So in any case, I am currently on a deadline for this sweater, a self-imposed deadline, because I want to get this sweater done for my partner by next week, mid next week. So in total, I'll have 2 weeks and a couple days to 2 days to knit this, which I think is doable. It's in Lettlopi again, one of my favorite yarns, and I'm using the color ash. I'll put it in the description box. I can never remember. It's just like a medium gray, and then this color, I don't actually know what it's called. It's a dark green that they have. So I'll also put that in the description box. And this is the Humulus sweater by Isabel Kramer, and Humulus means hops. As you can see, I'm done the color work on it. There's no other color work. Maybe there's some on the sleeves, I can't remember. But yeah, it has this lovely hops pattern. So that'll be for my partner, and I'm hoping it's gonna fit. It seems a bit tight, but now that I'm onto the body part, that seems the right size. So, you know, you can always change things up with sweaters like this that are top down. You could knit a size up in the yoke and then go down a size for the body, if that's the way that it will fit the person you're making it for, if they are broad-shouldered. I don't know if he's broad-shouldered. I think kind of balanced is more what I would say, so this might work for him. I don't know. I feel that it will be fine. It's just, I think I'm knitting, I like to knit oversized because I like oversized garments. I like wearing them, but also I feel confident that I will be happy with the result, even if it's a little oversized. Whereas if it's a little on the, you know, slightly smaller side, I won't necessarily be happy with it. So I tend to knit with a larger margin of size, I guess. And I didn't quite do that here. I knit with, I think, about 7 inches of positive ease, which seems like a lot, but maybe I would have been more comfortable with 10. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see. But yeah, that's going well. So as you can see, I have the body to knit and the sleeves to knit, and I have a week and 2 days to do it. I think I can do it. And yeah, that'll be a present for him very soon. regardless of whether I finish it for my deadline or not. The one thing I'll mention about what I've done here, so first of all, as you can see, this color work is very delicate. There are very few dark stitches next to each other. Most of them are spaced out a little bit by gray stitches. So it's a very fine effect, almost like a filigree effect, and it's gorgeous. I originally had, instead of this dark green, the color called Acorn, which is certainly darker than this gray, but not by much. And they looked great together side by side in the balls. Certainly the colors went really well together, but when I started the color work, it's knit top down, and I got to about here and realized you could not tell what the color work design was. It just blurred, and from a distance it looked like nothing. Up close it was confusing to the eye. It was kind of irritating and painful to look at. So the contrast was not high enough with the gray and that acorn color. So I had to unknit the color work, go get Lettlopi from my local yarn shop, which luckily just started carrying it, which is amazing, and picked up this dark green, and that looks so much better. It's still not high contrast because both these colors are heathered, but that's what I like typically. I typically really like a more blended effect with my color work. So overall, happy with that, very happy with that. And he is certainly an earthy toned person, so he'll like that. And yeah, the only other thing I'll say for this pattern, haven't modified anything yet. I did, however, except the collar. The collar is supposed to be about this thickness, but I knit it double the length and then folded it over, and then knit that edge together with the, how does that work? Together with the cast on edge, is that how I did it? Yes, yes. I knit the collar, instead of knitting the collar about this wide, I knitted about this wide, and then folded it over itself to the cast on edge, and then knit that stitch as I was knitting the new stitches to make a folded collar. And the reason I did that is just because my partner tends to keep a very small wardrobe, and if he likes something that I've made for him, he will wear it basically every day that he can. So his larger Lopapeza in the wintertime, he wears it every single day. And this is durable yarn, but just with such a thin little collar, and I hope that he can wear this in the spring with a spring jacket. I just felt more secure knitting it double so that it will be hopefully more long lasting just in that particular area for him. And yeah, I was concerned it might look a bit bulky, but I don't think it will. It looks a bit chunky right now, almost like a rope, but I think once I block it, it will flatten a little bit, and I think with wear it will flatten even more, so I'm not really concerned about that. And I might even do the same or a similar idea for the cuffs, but I haven't quite decided yet. I'll decide when I get there. And finally, with this sweater, everything's fine except the color work right here. There's some longer floats there. Not long, only 4 stitches, but they're long by comparison to the rest of this pattern, which hardly has any floats in it that you have to catch. So there, I could have caught the floats, but I didn't. I decided not to. I thought, oh, 4 stitches, no big deal. But I knit that part quite tightly, and I do not want to go back and fix that. So I kind of agonized over this, how to fix that. And I had this idea almost as I was falling asleep one night, that I'll just find the end of that green yarn, wherever I stopped using it, wherever that is on the inside of this sweater. I'll just see if I can find it. There it is. So there it is. That's the end of the green yarn. I haven't woven it in yet. I did sort of weave it in as I was knitting, which I do with my color work all the time. I knit sort of, it's like catching a float. I just caught that yarn to sort of weave it in, but it's very easy to undo that. So my thought is I will undo that weaving in that I did. I will spit splice a longer piece of that yarn onto this end, and then I will slowly work that extra length of yarn into the sweater by stretching that color work, that line of color work. I'll just start probably right next to that yarn and just slowly stretch it in, stretch it in, stretch it in. I don't know if that will work. Maybe I'll have to pick at it and sort of pull on those inner loops on the inside of the sweater to get more of that green yarn into the sweater, so that when I stretch it here, the color work section stretches evenly all throughout. It's only the last couple rounds of the color work where I knit it too tight, and so I don't have to, do this process for very long, just enough to get those last 2 rounds to not be so tight. And I think that's going to work. We will see. That's I've never tried that before, but it's definitely worth trying over unknitting and starting, doing that part again. So I will let you know how that goes. And if you have a similar problem with a colorwork sweater, and you feel inclined to give that fix a try, let us know in the comments how it works for you. I think it's a pretty clever fix, and even if it doesn't work, you don't really lose anything by trying it, because you're not, you're not unknitting or cutting anything. You're not really changing much. It's as if you didn't break your working yarn at that spot. So it's definitely worth a try. It is, the sun won't set yet, probably for another hour or so, but it's getting dark. So I will try to wrap up this short video. I have 2 more things to show you. Not works in progress, but future projects. And also just beautiful yarn that I got somewhat recently. I'm not actually buying yarn, except in the case of, for that Lettlopi, I was already knitting it. I needed the yarn to knit it, so I had to buy that. And 2 other exceptions. There could be so many exceptions, but only 2 other exceptions. Sorry, my video ended there. So I was just wanting to show you a couple other projects that I have that are sort of very immediate future projects, and some yarns that I acquired. I'm not acquiring yarns, and I recently reorganized my yarn trunk, and wow, is there ever a lot of yarn in there. And all of it, for the most part, except for scraps, is set aside for particular patterns. So, it's this project list and this project trunk that I have to work through, which is really exciting. And I kind of like that, when I'm ready to knit something new, I can just open the trunk and pick the yarn and the project that speaks to me, and it's all ready to go right there. But the idea of acquiring more yarn is kind of absurd because I could not acquire yarn for years, probably at least 2, and still not get through this trunk. So that's why I'm not acquiring yarn. I don't need it, and I don't want to be overwhelmed by it. It's something that brings me joy and pleasure, so I don't want to have any guilty feelings or any feelings of being overwhelmed by it. However, 2 exceptions. One is this beautiful yarn that I got from De Rerum Natura, which is a lovely company that uses mostly merino-based wools or merino-based yarn, as well as some silk and I don't know if they use mohair or not. Mostly merino is what I know. And they do have they make some ethical claims on their website that you can look up, and they don't get wool from merino sheep that have been raised using mulesing practices, which is a very cruel practice. And if you don't know what that is, you can also look it up, but basically it's a practice where they remove a patch of skin from the backside of the sheep, and somehow this is to prevent some sort of fly and maggot infestation that the sheep are prone to. I think I've summarized that correctly. Terrible. So that's one nice thing about that. And then they also use silk, and I can't remember what they say about their silk, the origin of their silk, but I think they also tell you about that on their website, where maybe not where it comes from, but how the silk is acquired. So this is a blend of merino wool, 90% merino and 10% silk, and it's a DK weight, and I'm going to use it to make a pattern that I've had for a long time on my computer, and it's called the Campside shawl, and I can't remember who the designer is, but I'll put that in the notes. And Alicia Plummer, maybe? I think that might be who it's by. And it's just a very simple shawl with some texture and some lace, but like very simple lace, like eyelets or something like that. And it just looks so easy to wear, and I want something for the summer, and I don't have a summertime shawl, so I figured this is a good thing to knit on. I think I'll be using a shawl a lot this summer for particular reasons, which you may discover later. Well, yes, or you may already know, I don't know, but anyway, I'll be using a shawl, and this is going to be nice and soft. And merino wool is amazing in the summer because it can be warm, but it can also keep you cool. It just is amazing like that. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. And silk is kind of the same, actually. It feels cool if it's hot outside, and it feels warm if it's cold. So I think this will be a nice durable shawl, which is always important to me, but it'll also just be a nice fabric to have next to skin, very soft, but not too hot like pure wool would be. And this colorway on the website, what was it called? It's called armoise. I don't know what armoise means, but I would describe this as a eucalyptus color, actually. It's more green than it is blue, so not quite eucalyptus, but kind of that bluish green, dusty eucalyptus color. And I love that color. That's blue greens are my favorite colors. They don't always flatter me, but they're the colors that I appreciate most. So there's that. And then the other purchase I made was from Topsy Farms again. And I got 5 skeins, all different colors, earthy tones for the most part. I got 3 shades of green. This is what they call olive green, and it's a solid. This is a heathered green, so not solid. It has brown and a little bit of red and maybe yellow in it. And then this is a dark heather green. This is a light heather green. So this is sort of whitish green. So I got 3 shades of green. And then I got heathered blue and sunflower yellow. So really bright yellow. It looks maybe a bit bright in this artificial lighting, but let me try to show you this. And I'm going to make a chevron baby blanket. And there's so many free patterns actually on Ravelry for chevron blankets. It's amazing, for baby blankets in general. This one is going to be knit, not crochet, and I think the pattern that I will use as a guide, just for the stitch, possibly comes from Purl Soho or comes from Espace Tricot. I can't remember which one. I think they both have a free or several free chevron patterns. So it's chevron striping, and my plan is to have everything but the yellow be sort of a main stripe, and then the yellow I will use to sort of in smaller stripes to transition between certain colors. So I might, let's say, well, let's just say it might be this. I might do a stripe of this, stripe of this, stripe of this, stripe of this, and then I might insert the yellow here in smaller stripes. So striping with this and then striping with this as they sort of transition together. And then I might insert the yellow again between the blue and this green, or between these two in the same way, to sort of add this pop of color between certain transitions. So that's my plan for that. And I love these colors. I just love them so much. And they are, gender neutral colors and just earthy colors. Also, our house has blue, green, earthy colors everywhere in it. So it will look, go with everything in our house. And the last thing I just want to say is some of these are messy. I used this amazing Nostepine from Moose Hill Woodworks, which I think is also, it's either in Ontario or Quebec. I got it off their Etsy shop. And this is the large version. They also make a shorter version. I'm glad I got the large. I found it a bit unwieldy at first. I've never used one of these, so I've been rolling now, winding all my balls using this, and these were the first ones. They look like little skeps. They look like some insect formation in nature, and I think they're cute, but as you can see, they're kind of messy. They kind of fall apart easily. But I've been using this for winding everything after I tried it on these, and I'm definitely getting the hang of it. And what's nice about it, as opposed to just winding a ball of yarn, which that's how I've done it. I don't have an actual winding device. What's nice about this is that the ball ends up being much airier and loftier and squishy. So, if you wind up some yarn and then don't use it for a while, if you wind it just by winding it by hand, the ball will be really dense and kind of tight, and some of that yarn can actually be a little bit stretched in the ball. And if you let that sit for a while, it can change the gauge at which that yarn will knit up. And I've definitely encountered this. I used to wind my yarn really tightly, and I did not know that this would be an issue. I haven't really found it to be an issue when I actually go to knit with that yarn, but I've noticed some yarns, certainly they'll regain their elasticity once washed, but when you're just using it straight from the ball, it feels like it's lost some of its elasticity, and it doesn't feel nice, but also it's not really ideal for particularly for sweaters and garments. So this is nice. You can confidently wind up your skeins, and if you want to, set them aside and not really use them for a long time. The yarn will be safe like that. Also, I actually realized you'd think a ball is better to knit from because it rolls and rolls and rolls, so it's just easy to pull from. However, if you don't have one of those clever pottery bowls with the little swirl that the yarn feeds into, a ball is really inconvenient if you're sitting on the couch. It rolls away from you all the time. And I've only noticed this recently because I guess I have balls, but I now have these little skeps, as I like to call them. And they just sit like a lump wherever you put them. They kind of flop around a little bit, but they're not going to roll off the table or roll off the couch and roll away on you somewhere under the couch or wherever. They're just going to kind of fall and sit there. So it's actually, in my opinion, easier to knit from these. Maybe the yarn doesn't flow as well, but you're not spending all that time chasing your yarn ball around. So I really like it. I think this is really cool, and I'm looking forward to practicing with it a bit more. I know that you can also, you make center pull balls using this. You can obviously pull from whichever end you want, but that's something that you really can't do with just your hands. You can if you use your finger to create a center in the ball, but if you have 100 gram skein of worsted weight, which like this is, that's going to enclose your finger really soon, and then you all of a sudden don't have a center to your ball anymore, whereas this keeps that center for you, and then you can have center pull skeps. So yeah, so I really like this. That was a neat purchase that I made, I don't know, like sometime last year or in the fall or something like that. I didn't know how much use I'd get out of it, but pleasantly I'm noticing I'm getting lots of use out of it. So I believe that's all I have to show today. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you are well wherever you're watching this from. I hope that if you can, you're able to get some crafting in, even if it's small, to find the time to do something small, to find the peace and, quiet, restful moments in which to do that. Even if you're traveling or on the move or not at home. If you like crafting, and I assume you do if you're watching this, I hope that you are able to find just a small moment to make something, because as we know, it can bring us self-confidence, it can bring us a little bit of joy, and kind of take our minds off of other things, and really center us for a brief moment, if that's all that you have. And that's why I return to making and crafting all the time. And the more we practice our skills, the more we can find ourselves maybe without all our familiar tools and familiar materials to work with, but able to create something nonetheless. So anyway, I hope that some of that applies to you if you're watching this. And in the meantime, between this video and the next, happy knitting. If you're knitting any of the projects that I've shared today, or if you have knitted them, please feel free to say so in the comments. And you know, if you liked what you knit, if you didn't like it, you know, say why. That's always, I assume, you know, when people are watching, they are getting inspiration for their next project, or something that they're currently working on. So the more input on any of those projects, the better. So don't be shy about commenting about any of that kind of stuff. And yeah, thanks for joining me. I hope that you take good care of yourself and your family and loved ones. And wherever you are, I hope that you'll be enjoying the weather that you're getting as well, or dealing with it somehow. So yeah, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.